even Tom Brady retired, spent 5 minutes with his children. He's
I
like, fuck
know,
this. I got to go back. Like, I can't do
because
this.
it would. I mean, especially if you spent, your whole life, like even what I'm saying, where I'll go, I'll be like, fuck, why am I so like bummed out right now? And it's just because I'm like, well, I haven't done any that, like I've sort of trained myself to only derive happiness from like having a sketch that I like or having a new joke. Like
Yeah.
it's like I've trained myself to get all my happiness from those little things. And then when I remove them all, it's like
You're like, oh, I'm just a sad, sad man.
yeah.
You're
So
like, fuck.
that is one of those things that fucking probably at some point in your life you like pay for. But I think that if it helps to accomplish things, but at some point it's
Uh,
probably you need to figure that out in a different way, more healthy lifestyle.
It's Johnny Late Night! And now here's your host, Johnny Rogers!
Welcome everyone to episode number 38 of The Johnny Rogers Show. My guest today is a New York City comedian who has amassed more than 100 million views with his viral videos. He was the creator, star, and showrunner of the hit digital series called Torontopia on CBC. He's performed in Just for Laughs, appeared on MTV, Netflix, and many other major networks. If you want to catch him live, he'll be in Tampa Bay at Side Splitters April 29th and 30th, San Diego at American Comedy Co. May 13th and 14th, plus he'll be heading to Las Vegas October 14th to the 16th for Skank Fest, and his comedy special White Immigrant is available now on YouTube. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for my friend and yours, Mr. Ryan Long.
Dude, if I wasn't trying to do comedy, I would just like honestly, or like trying to do fucking stand up in New York right now. There's just so many better fucking options for me, especially like since most of my life is like online.
Yeah, you're like, I can just literally do this from anywhere. You could be on a beach in fucking Mexico and just send
Yeah,
out, as
in
long
the
as you have good
pandemic,
Wi-Fi.
we went to Miami for a couple months in the pandemic, and it like honestly was better, but whatever. I'm
But it's
fucking
just,
for some reason have
okay.
to do stand up 5 times a night.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I was like, is it just because like you can do so many shows in, but here's the thing that I get to, like it's this crossroads that I come to constantly with comedy is like everyone always says like you got to do the most amount of sets that you can to like perfect every single joke. And I'm like, so that requires you to be in this like terrible living situation where you're paying out the ass and people are getting pushed in front of subways and there's all these other kinds of like problems with living within a big city. So is it like, do you think there's truth to that, that like you really do need that many sets, or is it more of a matter of like it gives you another opportunity to just try out stuff? Because I'm thinking like you could just review a longer set and then just write, like you could, unless you're not that type of comic, maybe you need to be on stage in order to like work out the material.
I think that you need, let's say, 5 minimum, maybe 7 years where you were doing that,
Yeah.
where that was your whole life. You're, actually doing shows 7 days a week, like thinking about that during the day, thinking about that when you go to sleep, to decide like who you are as a comic. Once that's set, and once you're like, okay, this is what I do, I've actually figured out like what comedy is, how it works, and how I fit into it or whatever. And you've like properly actually done that where it's not kind of half-ass, and you've
Yeah.
like done all the like exploration and all the different angles, and you kind of figure that out. I think at that point, then you can, worry about like, what does this look like structurally? I mean, right now I work probably on things that aren't stand up as more than someone would work at a normal job, right? So it's like, how do you design your life now? And so then it's like, okay, so but as far as the sets, that is one of the things where I can do Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 4 sets a night, but I'm not there grinding in the sense that like, oh, I need to work on this material. That in the sense that I'm like, oh, I need this to affect my comedic mind. And I'm legitimately trying to produce material. So
Yeah.
I released a special. I'm back on the road, like headlining hours in front of
That's a
people who've
scary
seen it
thing.
and seen, a lot of them have seen all three of the other ones too,
Yeah.
right? So it's
But
like,
I like how
I'm
that's
legitimately
changing.
trying to I'm legitimately trying to put a fucking hour together. So it's not like, oh, I like obviously a product of the more you do, the better you get, like to some extent. But also not. I mean, like music, there are a lot of people that you might argue that they were best specials when they were 40 and now they're 50 and you might say it's worse, right? So
Yeah,
for
yeah.
me, it's more like legitimately I'm, you know, I'm actually trying to produce material and that's like a necessity in my life right now. So it's like a
Because
structural thing.
I bet you've seen like other New York City comedians, or I'm sure there's people in LA too, whatever big comedy scene, Texas now, I guess, where it's like they're on that like grind where they're doing 3, 4 shows a night, but it's like it's the exact same material that they've been doing for 5 years or 6 years, and they
Well,
haven't
I
put it
don't
on
think
a
that's
special.
useless. I don't think that's useful. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not useful.
But
It's like
that's
you're
any job. I
torturing
mean,
yourself.
depends who you compare yourself to. Like anyone that's
Yeah.
great, like isn't doing that.
No, no. Like look at Dave Chappelle. He's
So
in fucking Ohio or something. Like,
yeah, look at anyone, right? Like there is, that's like becomes more about your identity. And if you think of it, like, how do you think of this,
yeah,
right? But that's any job, I think, in the world. There's going to be people, if you look at some people and you go, oh, they just kind of come to work and do the thing and whatever.
yeah,
And then there's some people that are, there's training and then there's training, right? Like there's the difference between like musicians, right? Like if you want to sit down and practice your instrument, that is very different from sitting down and playing your instrument.
yeah, yeah. Just kind of like letting yourself free flow and come up with new riffs or whatever. I wanted to
Well,
ask you
that's
about that
writing. I mean,
too.
that's writing,
Yeah,
but that's
yeah,
that's writing is different than practicing. Like you literally sit there and toil over something that you can't do, you
yeah,
know?
yeah,
So if you're doing that comedically, you're like, you know what? I'm not able to like pull off stories at, real, comedy clubs. I'm not, how do I solve that? And, or I'm not good at this. How do I fix this part of my game? And you're treating it like a athlete, then
yeah,
that's very different from how do I, uh, how do I, go and get more spots and get paid for it? Or it's also different from what I'm doing right now, which is how do I develop more material? Like once I have a more comfortable hour, then I think I will go back to like, hey, let me dust up this part of my game. Like, you know what? I'm talking about this too much. Like, I'm having trouble thinking of jokes. Like, but right now I'm legitimately like, how do I put together? And I'm like, I need another 10 minutes. I have too much on this topic. I have too much on this. I'm like, how do I need another 10 minutes. So I'm like, okay, I know I have an hour that's not shaky. And then once I have that, then I might, then I might get back into like, let me train like as a comic.
yeah. Because I was gonna say like there's oh fuck, where was I going with that? Um, shit, I lost it. I hate
I don't know.
fucking hate when that happens.
So yeah, I don't know. I'm a big believer that you can't do multiple things at once. And maybe some people say they can, but so if I'm like, you
That's
go, a
their
lot of people
pride
like
and
to,
ego talking though.
yeah, I think
I think you
so.
can if you have a system. Like you do
Oh,
YouTube and podcast and like stand
not
up
at
at
once
night,
though.
but not at
And
once. You have a
not at once
system.
though. And even on top of that, I'm not even when I'm doing too aggressively in one week, it's not that great. So yeah, I do try to even separate clumps of days to be like that. And to be honest, like that's why I shoot. So I will with YouTube stuff. I'll spend like every month. I kind of if I'm operating at my best, I have a week where it's like that's all I'm thinking about. So it's like day one, day two, brainstorm, brainstorm, brainstorm. What are other people making that's good? Like what am I energized by? Like what do I want to say? And like
What's
almost
hyping
like
you up?
organize all the clutter in my brain to be able to try to figure out that. That's what I was doing the last couple of days of like, what do I want to say? Like, okay, I'm doing this. I'm doing this. Yeah, I can on autopilot do that, but what do I want to do? Like, and then it'd be like day two, I'd be like, okay, if street stuff, if I want to do this, like, should I be doing bigger pranks? Like, okay, should I put money into that? Like fucking yesterday I was thinking, should I be maybe I should what I could maybe I should just like hire a team and do a bunch where I'm like, let me rent an ice cream truck and do like a hidden camera thing where I'm an ice cream guy, like stuff like that. Do you know?
Yeah, yeah,
And I
yeah,
was like,
yeah,
yeah, maybe I've always sort of thought of the sketches as a place to really like explore on the street stuff, a place to just kind of like,
yeah,
be funny in that sense. But I'm like, what if I switch that? Like, what can I do that like will now make it exciting for me, even though from
yeah.
like a monetary standpoint, it's probably
It might
better to
not
just
be.
like find your thing and hit it. Yeah. Yeah. It might be better to just find your thing and do it over and over and over again. Right. And really like hone that audience. But I think that it was kind of every time, but then I have to put weeks where I'm like, no, I do have to think about this system of money of like, and then I have like the business component, like I have employees now and I have, you know,
Which is crazy that you have employees for, like, we talk for a living and then now you've hired people based on that. But
dude,
that's
it's
amazing that
nuts.
you can do that. The thing that I loved about like watching you blow up right after the like wokes and racists are the same was, and this will always stick with me, of you being frustrated by like both sides of the political aisle trying to like use you as like their talking point, like an example to push their own agenda. And so you were like, I'm not gonna just keep doing wokes and races part 2, 3, 4, 5. Like, I'm gonna do a stupid sketch where I'm dressed as SpongeBob. Like, I
Yeah,
just love you
I
keep it
did on
funny.
purpose do that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
think that's because I hate money, I guess. But
You
also,
hate money. Your manager's like, "What are you
I don't
doing?"
know.
Where does
Yeah,
that come from though? That like sense of kind of not I wouldn't call it rebelling, but it's kind of just like
I think that is what it is. I mean, I think you're right. I mean, these are like, even when I was thinking about this like yesterday, those are the things that I was like thinking about. Like, I feel like I need to make sense of all these things and come to terms in my head with all of the things I'm thinking, so that I can have like peace, that I can make something good. But where
mhm.
that comes from, I think, is like getting in touch with like, what exactly are you funny and what do you find funny? So like, what energizes you? And if energizing you is like, finding things that like are sort of not supposed to be said. If now you're speaking to people that actually like that message. I mean, it's the same with any, band or whatever, anything. You develop an audience and then that agrees with you, right? So it's
Yeah,
like, well, if you have that, then like where, and if you like, then where does your comedy come from? And stand up, it's easier because it's the clubs, right? Stand up's
yeah.
easier because you go to the comedy clubs and it's always just a group of
It's
people. You
random
don't,
people.
I'm not just developing material on the road, but the other stuff on the internet, it is sectioned off a little. So it's a little harder to find that. So I think that then I have to get other things. I'm like, okay, well, what am I pushing back against? Well, what if I'm, and a lot of times historically, like the most popular comedy for a long time, especially in like the hipster realm, which became the like mainstream comedy, was comedy that pushed back against the conventions of comedy. Right. So I think that's a very like young people thing, is let's make fun of comedy. Let's make fun of like
Yeah.
the way late night shows are so stuffy. Let's make fun of the way that, they film the like sitcoms, like how corny they are. You know what I mean? So I
I was
think that a
looking
lot
back on
of
like
times
reality shows, like the fake reality shows. If
the
you look
fake
at
reality
like,
shows, yeah,
if you
they're
look
great. A
back
lot of them are
though,
great.
we think they were great though. That's the thing, is like you look at something like
No, the
Cheaters
fake
or you,
reality shows.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah, even
sorry. I thought you meant the like satire reality shows.
no,
Like if
no,
you
no,
think of,
no.
I was
Like
thinking like, the Real Bros of Simi Valley or something like
yeah,
that. Or
yeah, yeah, that's great. But like that's mocking, yeah, that archetype of reality. But like even if you look back at those old reality shows where at the time we fully believed they were real, but then when you watch it through this new lens, you're like, oh, this is all bullshit. This is so clearly set up. Like,
yeah. So there's like, I don't know, there's like so many things going on at once, right? Like with that, like thinking about what you're gonna make. Cause you could be like, one, if you wanted to sort of, bullshit like the artistic answer, you're just like, it is true that if I lose like what I think is funny, so the more I get away from that, the more I'm don't know what to do. So it's
yeah,
like if I get away from my like center that I've like built for myself of like what I think is funny, then you're like, what the fuck do I, then you start looking like, then you become that person that's like, what do people want to hear? Like,
yeah,
what point should I be making? Like, you fucking don't even think anything anymore. So there's that.
yeah.
And
That,
then
I'm,
there's,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
oh yeah, but I mean, that's like a huge part of it. And then you're just like, if I'm being honest, I think it's like, there's also like a hipster element where it's like, I want to be kind of pushing back against like what I see as like the mainstream. And then also there's the comedic element where I want to be seen a certain way, probably. Like I want uh, like comedians to think my stuff's funny. Like I
Respect
don't
at
want
the end
to,
of the day, right?
yeah, so I think that I want that too. So I want people to like think what I'm doing is good. I don't want to just be like printing money to like uh be like a mouthpiece for like a base of people that I, you
Yeah.
know, sometimes agree with, sometimes don't. So I think that you try to like balance all those things to like something where you just uh, feel like, okay, I think this is good. I feel like energized. So then you have your like stomach, right? So I think the biggest thing that I try to listen to at the all. So let's say we're talking about sketches. Out of all of that stuff, it all manifests of like, okay, so now I'm editing my comedy sketch, and am I like pumped to put this out, or am I just like, yeah, that's the one for this week, or was I kind of like, this is sick?
It's got to be an obsession. It's got to be that thing that keeps you up like till 2, 3 in the morning, just like making sure all the edits and zoom ins are perfect. I've always said that with
Yeah, you're
myself.
stoked.
Yeah, you have to be stoked on it because like I remember the first time I tried doing podcasts, like I think I got like 60 or 70 episodes in. We're talking like 5, 6 years ago, and I was editing one of them at home, and I just stopped halfway through, and I was like, this feels like work. Like it feels like I'm doing this for someone else. Like it doesn't even feel fun to me anymore. So I just literally closed my laptop and then just like never recorded another episode. I even had like 3 other episodes on that podcast that I never even released
Right.
because
And
that's
you
my
sort of
rule.
took that as an indication of, if you're like, if I'm not like enjoying this,
And
then
what the
no
fuck
one
is the
else will.
point?
Like, it's not
Yeah,
good.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm putting this out to service the 5 people maybe that like it and are listening to it. Like there's no point in that. I was like to
Yeah, I was sorry.
I was gonna say on podcasts, what always cracks me up whenever I listen to you appear on someone's podcast is like inevitably at some point they'll start getting like serious on an issue, but you'll still like, and it's amazing that a lot of people don't even pick up on it. Like I don't know if I just understand like your humor, where you'll just like always everything coming out of your mouth will be a joke about what they're saying. Like stop taking yourself so
I mean, we're
fucking
getting pretty
seriously.
serious here, but I
No,
guess
but like
I think that's the only thing I get serious about lifestyle design. Whenever you're fucking talking about like that's the
You're like, this
only
is my
I
life.
honestly, dude, I honestly think that's the only thing I do get serious about when it is
Same.
like when we're well, the like way to do it, you know? I
Yeah,
love
yeah.
like
You
the
like become a
fucking design of
teacher.
the but I also become a student. Like I love like
Yeah.
talking to people. Like I think that I don't know if that many people like it, but whenever I have someone on my thing, I'm like, yo, how do you design your days? Like, what does your mornings look like? Do you do like, I don't know. I'm just like,
It's just
I
turned
love,
into Tim Ferriss.
well, I
Yeah.
do. I like that stuff. So I think that that's when I get like, fucking whatever. Like, I like the idea of talking about all that stuff, but yeah, I know what you mean that you want to, because you, at the end of the day, you're just like, yo, this isn't that big of a deal. Like, you can't take yourself too seriously.
Yeah, it was like, what? Look at how taking yourself too seriously like worked out for fucking Will Smith and Jada there. Like, they took themselves too
Take
seriously,
themselves too seriously.
and now he's banned from his
Well,
like favorite
I don't know if you
event.
saw, but Ti is like trying to be a comic, right?
Yes, yeah,
And
yeah.
I honestly think that's the biggest problem, is he takes himself very seriously.
He's used to coming out with like music behind him, hits that everyone loves, everyone there is ready to see him perform, and then like you watch that video of him doing a set and you're like, oh, this is like an open mic comic. Like he's
Yeah.
so where my ladies at? Like he's doing like all the men and women, there's so many differences between them. Like he's using like the smallest lines that you would lean on as
I
a
know.
comic.
And comedy is like a naturally like humbling art form.
Very.
I think in a way that, like, I mean, my kind of personality and sensibilities of what I like and stuff was developed as like a kind of a musician, I would say, that which still like I was a pretty fully formed person when I started comedy, but comedy, the biggest impact in my life has been to probably make me less like think that I'm important.
Yeah, 100%.
I guess some people that happens when you get older too, but I'd say I went like without, so having that, like I still fucking think like I could accomplish big things and all that stuff, but I also am like, yeah, but it doesn't matter.
You're like, yeah, none of this even fucking matters. Like, I've been doing
I look back
comedy
to
like
being younger.
10 years now, like something like that. Like, and then obviously pandemic, I didn't do fuck all during the pandemic. I made a hip hop album instead. just because
Nice.
that's because I what I felt like doing. I was like, I can't go to a club, but hey, I can put this Yeti mic in my closet and record some songs. Undeniably dope, available on Spotify right now. But it was another way for me to be funny, right? Like let me try to like rhyme some clever bars together and make it, and that is a humbling experience. Like
I did a rap song recently.
yeah, dude, that was killer. I just like
Yeah, I like
would
doing that
die.
stuff.
It's fun. Like, and the fact that we like there was a time where people were told like you need to just focus on this one thing and do that. It's like no, you can. Like I remember
Yo, people
Patrick.
love people love like having their limitations and then designing philosophies around them and telling them to people.
That's how I know someone is not doing anything when they start like preaching philosophies. I'm like, oh, you've run out of ideas.
Oh, people love having like philosophies about why you can't do things.
I remember
there's
too,
people-
like early days when YouTube first started, I asked a comic, I was new, and I asked a comic like, hey, like, should I put my set on YouTube? Like, you know, just to get it out there? And like, don't do that. Don't ever do that. Like, you're gonna burn that material and they're gonna be yelling like, we heard this one before. And I was like, 50 people watched it. Like, there's 7 billion people on the planet. Like, somebody has not heard the joke. And then literally look at it. It just turns around where people, it's almost like Andrew Dice Clay, where like, he had his hits, like people wanted to see the nursery rhymes when they came out. They weren't like tired of it at that point.
So myself younger was a big like victim of doing this or whatever. One of my biggest problems, I think, when I look back is like you develop you're like, okay, I can't do this, and you box yourself into like such a tiny lane. Whereas if you just, instead of like have so many rules, you just guide yourself on like energy, I feel like that puts you in like a better place. So structurally, you try to guide yourself on energy and then only use structure to decide like what's the best way to like assist yourself in moving towards those energy pockets.
There we go, getting serious again. I wanted to ask you though, because like I don't think a lot of people, unless you're like a hardcore Ryan Long fan, but people don't know that you were part of the Johnstones. Huge
in America, they don't, which is
in
good.
America they don't.
I actually,
you're fresh faced.
I love the fact that I think it was an advantage to come here and have no
what
one
was
know
that like to
about
just
anything.
show up like a secret assassin? And people were like,
Good.
were you just
it.
quiet and just like, oh yeah, hi, I was just wondering where the open mics were?
I mean, I'm never quiet.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to miss you coming into the room.
Yeah, you're definitely not a quiet person.
Just this binge bopping around.
Yeah. I was more like mission oriented. When I came here, I was like okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to every club. I'm a very like extreme person, but I go, I'm going to come to like every club. And then I did like wild things, like everyone in the industry who I like thought mattered that I wanted to meet. I sent them like a bottle of like champagne or like bottle of scotch or something. And I was like, just to do a phone call. Yeah. I did like lots of that stuff. I was very like, I would, go to a club that I wanted to work at, like, and then tell, push it really hard, then email the guy, like all my stuff, and then he'd be like, and then I'd get people to recommend him. So I'd really like focus on one person at a time. And then I would go there every day. And then eventually, I went there like 7 days, and then someone didn't show up and he's like, all right, you go on. Then I killed. And then he was like, all right, start working there. That's one. Then I did the same thing somewhere else. And then before you know it, now I can, then I was doing the internet stuff, because I was just go, okay, I know that I can't do the kind of stuff I was doing in Canada, but I can do on the street stuff. So I'll do that while I'm doing all the podcast stuff. And I kind of hired someone to help me like introduce me to people. And I don't know, I just kind of whatever. I had a pretty like specific mission, I guess. And then now, yeah, whatever. Now it's like
it was always there for you. Yeah. People just expect like.
I just got my life back. To be honest, I legitimately, the amount of people that said this to me, they go, it's the exact same grind in Canada, but it's the payoffs higher here. Yeah, I remember in music people said that in Canada. It's not harder.
Like, is it when you release something in America, is it like just more direct to that 300 million people that live in the country? Like, I feel like if you release something in Canada, it takes a bit for America to even see it.
The internet, okay, the internet's like democratized that a little bit. Like there is people in Canada that make a living, but it's hard. It's just the stand-up's a big you could be like an internet guy, but to be like contextualized in, as part of the podcast scene or whatever, like it's very hard for that to happen. You know what I mean? Like it does matter to be here and kind of be around everyone and be part of like the culture where it happens. You know what I mean? And it's like being in I was saying, if you can be the best basketball player in the world, but if you live in Nigeria, like it doesn't matter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you want to be the best basketball player in the world and you want any book about basketball, if you want any, anything about basketball ever to include your name, you're going to have to move to America and be in the NBA or Toronto.
Just plain and
right?
simple.
But
if
that's
you want
just,
to get noticed,
that's just what it is. Yes,
and if
exactly.
you want to be if you're a female and you want to be a big star, you got to go to Russia. That's the only place that you can, because nobody gives a fuck about the WNBA here.
Yeah, exactly. You have to go
I
to
love
Russia
that. It was a Danny who said it too. Like, name 5 of your favorite players. It was just like, like you can't even name one of them.
No, of course not. So yeah,
I was gonna say how often. I'll let you finish that. And then
I was just gonna say I thought it was funny that in a lot of ways I was just like, I just got my old life back. Like, what did I do in Canada? It's like I woke up, I made videos like all day long. I have my production company that I used to do all sorts of stuff. And then I did my like Toronto series and the Hard Time video. So I just made videos all day and then went to stand up at night. And it's just like all I did. And then, did my podcast, and I do the exact same thing now. Like my life is, I legitimately am doing the exact same life in Canada. It's bigger. So there's more to worry about. And
it's a higher return though, right? Like,
it's a way higher return, and we're selling out shows, but the actual structural day-to-day of my life is the exact same, but instead of the corner, it's the Comedy Cellar, but nothing's changed.
Yeah. And it's like,
the exact same life. I just got my life.
Yeah, that's fucking hilarious. But like, little did
Zero
you know
has changed in terms of right now. I'm at my office right now. This is just working today. I'm doing the exact same thing. I had an office in Adelaide and Toronto that I would go. That just nothing has changed from what I do.
But you didn't know that at the time that you were almost like training or preparing yourself for this moment. I did know that. You did?
No, I did.
You manifested that.
I was very conscious. I was very conscious of that when I was in Toronto. Yeah.
Because I always say to people,
I was
too,
very conscious of that.
There's sometimes when
which is why I was so focused on material, and I actually even remember thinking that, like, exactly when I remember in the band stuff, I was a little more like that, where it was very now. And at the corner, I was a little older, a little, I'd been through this whole game before. And I was that's why I didn't do the fucking Yuck Yucks tours. Like I had a thing. I won't go on the road. I didn't go on the road because I know it was useless.
Yeah.
I went on the road enough to
Vancouver and
why?
Yeah.
I knew I knew it had no point. I knew what I was like. So I just knew it didn't like help the goal. I knew that it was like, I remember in the band, there was points where we just went on tours because you're like, well, that's what you do. But it didn't help anything.
No.
If anything, it hurt because it just takes you away from doing anything for 2 months, whatever.
Yeah.
So, and it wasn't like you're making, unless, so even if I do now, it's either, for some purpose or straight up like a money thing, right?
You're like, I want to get into those markets too. Like, so that you can come back next time and do a bigger place. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't think like that. No.
You don't think like if you take a tour and you go to like a bunch of different like cities that no one's even been to, like I can't remember who it was. I think it was Bert Kreischer just started being like, okay, what cities have I never even been to before? Like he's performed like all over the place, right? But then he specifically started booking shows in places that he's never been, just so that he could even build up like a name in that area. Because if you come into, I'm sure you've done like those small town Ontario shows.
Your name in that area is already going to be based on how many people know you from all the other stuff you do.
That's true. I guess the only intent and purpose of that would be to like get new fans, but then you're taking more of an
What do you mean
more of an expense? But I'm saying like I'm saying like not to do that. So I'm saying you're taking more of an expense to do that if that's your purpose, when you could just be putting it into a video. And then,
I don't believe the benefit. The idea that me going to play someplace helps the next time I come back, I don't really understand it. I'm like, if I'm selling tickets because I have a popular like podcast and YouTube channel, how exactly is going to play in some town making it more fans?
No,
so what the people that came to see it, they already know who I am because that's why they came to see me.
Yeah.
I don't like, how is it building anything? I don't get it.
I don't know.
If anything, it's cashing in.
Yeah,
on,
yeah.
you know.
I guess it's just like maybe there'll be people here that already know me and already love it. But how do you assess like
For him, there is. He's selling out the
for
shows
sure,
with people
yeah,
that
for
are his
sure.
fans.
But
How
for
are you
yourself,
building an
like
audience?
for yourself though, if there's like somebody out there who is just like, say they're just taking off and they're wanting to do a tour to get on the road, not necessarily to go these places to get new fans, but just to, you know, see their fans. How do you decide like, well, I'm gonna go here, or I'm gonna go here specifically?
To
Like I
me,
know
it's
you
a
got
money thing. Like, I mean, you're touring for one of two reasons, in my opinion. And again, there's lots of comics that probably disagree with me. I think, what's the purpose? I mean, either I'm putting together an hour, or I'm doing this because it's like that's the money play. Like, I'm like, you know what? Like, a lot of times I do think of that as like, what's the business model? Like, am I gonna take a bunch of sponsors or this, or are we touring? And there is sacrifices for touring. If I'm taking off for 2 weeks, that takes a lot of time away from my, business or whatever. So I go,
yeah.
okay, so what if I make my model around that? If I bring someone on tour with me, maybe I can film on the road, and then that, stuff can fund other things or whatever. And also, there's an added benefit of if I'm putting the hour together. But if I have an hour like ready to go, like, I think that any comic that's being honest with himself, if you aren't making changes, you're going to tour to make money.
Mm-hmm. That's the exclusive purpose of it. Otherwise, like you said, what's the point? Now, especially now with the internet, it's like you really
or you like to. Also,
yeah.
like, we like to, but there's a lot of things I like to do that I don't get to do, because of, what I'm trying to accomplish or whatever.
Yeah, like
Actually, was
living in
having that.
Miami.
Yeah, there's so many sacrifices I make. So it's, but I also like doing spots in the city too. So
Yeah.
I do like, doing Brooklyn Comedy Club, the Stand, in the Comedy Cellar. And so doing an hour for your fans is really fun, obviously, but it's also fun hanging out in the comedy club. So it's just, and that, then you're making less money than you would do there or whatever. So it's all sacrifices. But I felt like it was making me laugh the other day because I have people that are helping with editing a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
I still do a lot of I still do all the final things, and I still probably edit a lot of them, but and then I remember I was like kind of not having good ideas, and I was having like a bad couple week run or whatever.
You're like, I don't know, throw in a Rickroll.
Yeah, dude, I was just not good, and I was like, my stuff wasn't funny, and then I was I had to deal with I was doing all these fucking stupid business calls, and I was trying to run this merch line, and I was trying to do my taxes and all of this shit. And I was just like, yo, this sucks. And then I realized, I was like, that's because you, and then I edited a video and then did a road date. And I was like, oh, that's because I hired people to do all the stuff I like doing, and I'm only doing the stuff that I hate doing.
Instead of the opposite way around.
Yeah.
I
was like, all
I
of the
hired a
things that,
business
like,
manager and a travel agent.
yeah, because that's the like fun part that you work so hard to build this fan base and do all this stuff. And then the fun part is you get to go and perform for them. Right.
Yeah.
And then the fun part of making the videos is you finally have a good idea and you cast it, do all the thing. And then to me, the fun part is kind of taking the footage and playing with it, but it is a bad use of time because someone else could potentially do it and I could just spend the last hour, but I'm just like, so all the stuff I like doing, I'm not doing. And then I'm doing the shit I hate doing, like fucking, whatever, organizing.
That'd be so funny as a sketch. You just hire, it's a comedian that hires a lookalike to just go do stand-up for them because they're like.
Gallagher did that.
Ah, did he do that? Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So you like, so it is all that thing. That's that Ryan Holiday guy I always used to talk about, like, well, what do you want your days to look like? What do you want your life to look like? And it's one thing to be like, well, I want my days to look like this because it'll be fun. But also, if you plan on doing this for 10 years, you better design it in a way that is like energizes you, or you're gonna start to suck.
That was like what Dave Chappelle said about the whole like when he put out that like really serious whatever talk that he did. I don't want to call it a comedy thing, but
15
something or other.
846.
I like what he said. Yeah, 846. I like what he said though about like when the pandemic happened, we really had to look around at our environment and be like, am I happy with the things that I accumulated? Because I'm gonna have to sit in this space now for like however long until the government tells us we can leave. And it's like, that was real. Like I was telling you at the beginning, that's why I was like, I need to get the fuck out of Toronto, just because it wasn't.
Yeah. You
wasn't
made a
having a good
move.
time there. I just wasn't having a good time. I was like, I need to, and now I'm actually like having fun again with like stand up and everything else. And I think it's just like less pressure. I don't know.
Yeah. No, dude, it's not, it's even like fun, like minimalizes it. It's almost like a satisfaction, you know? If you're not finding like any satisfaction,
It just felt
then
like work. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And then if you feel like that now, you're gonna fucking triple feel like that in 2 years.
And especially if the pressure's on, like you have a network that's like, well, we need to get this video out by this time, or you're like, well, what the fuck? Like, go away. you know?
What are we doing here?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
What are we
putting pressure.
doing?
Why do I have a due date on creativity? Like, what the fuck? Like,
I'm constantly having that a battle of again, I just think that like never ends, but
yeah.
that's why this is like hard. But if you want to do something, I don't know, like the good or build something big, yeah, you're always gonna have to balance those. That's why it's like, I don't know, important to just like every once in a while at least like do that fucking a synopsis of everything and being like, what is the thing that's bringing me like the most? What is the thing I like the most? And what is the thing that is bringing me like the most pain? And also doing that money wise, like a lot of times I feel like I have to do those things where I go, okay, this is like a really good like money thing, but I hate it. So I go, I have to cut it.
Hey everybody, Johnny here. Just want to take a quick second to thank our newest Patreon subscriber, CLB. I appreciate your support, and because you are subscribed to the show for just $1 a month, you're getting this episode before anyone else. If you want to be cool like CLB, head to patreon.com/TheJohnnyRogers and join in on the fun. All right, now back to the episode. Is there a moment in your career that you had, like either in music or in stand-up otherwise, where you just felt like completely lost, like, okay, it's all done here now, and like
well, that was the most of that was after the music, which I always say that like I think 25 to 30 is like the hardest time for like dudes, period. I think that a lot of guys are, because up until 25 you still feel like it's so easy to just, I could go back to school, I could do anything, like it's just so fine to kind of be like all over the place, you know what I mean? And it's just kind of like with this vague idea that it'll probably work out. And then sometimes around like 27, 28, you just have to, you're starting to come to the realization that like it didn't. And then on top of that, everyone that you know, a lot of people have, you know, good jobs and they're, you know, starting like kind of lives and it seems all good. And then at 30, I feel like guys, you come to terms a bit more with like, all right, well, this is what I'm doing to some degree. A lot of your friends and families who started those 25-year-old lives, they're divorced now, like, or they hate their jobs. It was like, they were this 26-year-old that was kind of making 100K a year. And it was kind of, everything was popping for them. Now they're, yeah, or whatever. Or there's some 35-year-old that's making 130 grand a year, but they hate their job now, whatever, right? They're not excited. So, or yeah, you've just seen all the things happen. So I think it's, you kind of, and things matter a little less and blah, but so people stop asking you about it too. When you're 27, 28, everyone's very like, so what are you doing? What's your plan? Like, I feel like when you're 30 fucking 5, no one's kind of like, so what do you do for a living? Well, no one cares. Like, it's just, you know what I mean?
Like
your friends,
yeah, your 50-year-old, you're like, so what are you doing with your life now? You go back to school? Or?
Yeah, exactly. Right. So your friends get together, people aren't comparing as much. So I think that, but I think that me being in that band, and it was kind of just seemed like, which was naive at the time, probably, especially being like this Canadian band. I just like had this idea that things would kind of work out, and I wanted to do the TV shows, and it was like this dead end path that I couldn't see at the end, like doing these like kind of Canadian TV shows. And it was like, I was basically chasing something that didn't exist. It wasn't even like like what I was trying to do wasn't even there. So I had this like,
there was
kind
no
of vague
end
idea.
goal, like ever. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I had a vague end goal, but like it was unrealistic because the end goal I now know is nothing. You know what I mean? To do,
you're like,
sort
I'll
of
win a Juno and it'll all be gold from here.
to be honest, like that is kind of,
yeah,
without any kind of understanding of, you know, how that works financially or what that looks like. And it's just, I just had this like vague idea of what I thought, how I thought things might work out. And then I think that I had to basically rejig everything and kind of start my life again, you know, 25, 26 or whatever. And then, so that was probably the, like, I feel like that was the most period of my life where I was like I wasn't like, I don't know if happy is the right word, but like things hadn't like
Kind of
gone
lost.
my way.
You're just like, what? I
Yeah, I
don't
was
know.
a little
Yeah.
lost and things weren't going my way and I didn't really know what to do about it. Whereas
you took
before I was
action,
just,
you know,
yeah, I guess, yeah.
because there's some people who just go like into complete inaction. Like I've noticed there's so many people like that whole fight or flight thing is real, right? Like you see some people just break down or like crumble in those moments where they need to be stepping up. And then you ask them like what they're up to and they're working at Tim Hortons or something. You're like, what? Like I've seen so many people that like
That's like a personality type. It's like there a lot
there's
of
so
people,
many of those people. It scares me. I'm like, I
but
never
one
want to
thing
become that person.
but I don't think you can become it. I think that that's one thing that I've also sort of realized more is that it's not, that's why like a lot of inspirational stuff is really preaching to the choir. The same reason that I always say like stoicism, that's like how to be calm and not, care about anything, is the people who read that are the people that are calm and don't care about anything, right? It's like, it's not the, that philosophy isn't attractive to the people that actually need it, right? So, but I feel like that inspiration stuff is that too. It's like you take people that are very like move makers, and a lot of times they kind of get into this, move making culture, which sort of maybe allows them to believe that it's not crazy and be more a move maker. So, and then you kind of can move on once you've like internalized that. But the most of the people that aren't move makers that are like, I can't do that because this, I can't do that because this, like I feel like they'll always kind of be like that. So it's just about whereas the people that are kind of that are move makers, if anything, sometimes those people need a little more, including myself, need a little more of like, all right, sometimes you need to take a pause. And if I look back at that 27-year-old period, sometimes I would embark upon working crazy hard on 2-year projects that if I maybe took a pause were like a stupid path.
I also want to ask you about the, was it Tennessee, that disaster that took place? Because I too, as someone from Canada, would have assumed that Tennessee was warm, at least.
Oh!
Not only did you arrive
yeah, dude, I
in
get
the
in
wrong
Nashville,
place,
it's freezing.
You're like Nashville.
I didn't bring a
that sounds
jacket.
hot.
Right? I get in Nashville and find out it's just as cold as New York.
Yeah, it's a
Doesn't that
global
seem crazy?
conspiracy.
See, it's supposed to be like, it is. It's like a cowboy town. When do you ever see like videos of people on like the Nashville Strip like cold?
Yeah, never. Like it's never. It's
Doesn't make it in
like
the propaganda
hot and sunny.
brochures.
It's for real propaganda. They need to lend that to some other places. Because like for my whole life, I saw that tweet and I immediately started laughing because I was like, I would have done the exact same shit. Like I just
and I think I'd been there before, but I guess it was in the summer. Which
so
I get the idea if
like this.
I would assume, okay, if I go there in January, it's probably sweater weather. But if I go there in
like
April,
LA or something.
Yeah. Or Austin is probably more what I thought.
Austin, yeah. Wasn't that where you were supposed to go too?
Oh, no, that was the week before. I was supposed to. Yeah, I was getting a little loopy.
You need a travel agent.
A lot of people recommend like executive assistant, but I don't know if I think it'll help. I think that it'll be, I don't see the utility in it as of now. Every time I've been pitched it and I've gone through it, I don't see the utility in it. I think it'll be more of a hassle. So I think that's not the idea. I think there is a scenario where I have someone that is essentially like a filmer, editor, kind of like multiplayer dude that tours with me and does other things. And one of the things they do is book, maybe flights and kind of, but to have someone that like their sole purpose is administration, I feel like to me would be like more of a hassle.
Yeah, that's true. Like, doesn't Schultz have
he has a whole
what's that
team.
guy's name? I know he has a whole team, but there's one guy, Dove, that's his friend, that does like all of his booking stuff. And I'm just like, yeah, that makes sense for him, right? Because he's on that kind of
he does lots of stuff.
Crazy
exactly.
Netflix level. He's doing so many different things that like
he's
bringing
doing
your
lots
buddy
of things,
on is way better. But when it's just
he's dealing with
he's
dealing with sponsors and stuff too. Like he's not,
it's got to be a
he's
friend
involved
too.
in a. Yeah, exactly. Right. It's got to be
Like,
someone you want to travel with. Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
that's
somebody
one
you
of the
want to
things
travel
where I'm
with
at.
for sure.
Yeah. I was at an advantage in some ways moving here, and that, I got to develop this style that wasn't influenced by any of these American comedians in a lot of ways, kind of in private, and have this own little scene and bring it here. Also, I got to sort of come here as a fully formed person. So most people in clubs, like, the Comedy Cellar only knows me as like this kind of, popular comedian
It's
that
a
does really
good
well. Like,
first impression. Yeah.
exactly. But on the other hand, you spend your entire life. I had a whole studio and 15 people. Like, if this was Toronto, I know 10 people that I'm like, yo, I would hire this guy to just be like hire full time, come around with me, do this stuff. But still that's one thing, being in America, I don't have that, which I'm very jealous of him specifically. Like, he's, from New York. He's got this very big network of people. If I wanted to hire an ad guy, like, I could hire a friend that also, there's just everyone that I work with. If I want a cinematographers, people that, if I want to shoot in a bar, I know 40 bars that people I grew up with own bar, like whatever it is, right?
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
the network of things that I don't have, which I think LA is better for that because no one's from there. Whereas in New York, a lot
That's
of
true. I
people
didn't think of
really do
that.
have roots here. Yeah, like when I was in Toronto, I used to feel that way about other people that moved there. Like, I'm at a big advantage over these people.
Yeah, because you just automatically are like, you have all this history with all these people, and especially if they had already seen you as like a kid in the band playing, and they're like, oh shit, like now he's doing comedy.
The city, the clubs. I go, hey, I want to do an after party
Yeah.
for my show. I know 9
They're like,
club
sure.
promoters. Like, those things aren't nothing,
Yeah.
I wanted an office. I know 10 people that kind of work in film in Toronto that have offices. I'd be like, yo, is there an extra spot in your building? Like, hey, can we rent, whatever, right?
Yeah,
And that's
yeah,
what we had.
whatever you
This
wanna
like little
do.
network of people. Yeah, so that stuff's sick. The only other positive is that moving to a city, you don't have any obligations. So if you move to a city with like real cutthroat, like, dude, I'm all in on this energy, you don't have your buddy saying, oh, we're all going to school, we're all going out for drinks tonight for so-and-so's birthday. Oh, I'm doing a party, like my college friends are doing a party, like your family's doing an event. Like, you literally have no things to do. So you can really just be like a psycho.
Yeah, you could just be a total sociopath about your work. Like, sorry, I gotta do spots. And they're like, okay.
You have nothing.
Yeah, you have nothing to commit to. Shit, there was one more thing that I wanted to ask you.
Especially in Corona.
Oh yeah, especially in Corona. That's everyone's new big excuse, which is so funny. They're like, oh, sorry, I'm scared.
It was some
of COVID,
people's
I can't
excuse, and
come
it was
out."
some people's. Well, some people. Oh, you just meant, yeah, in life. Yeah, for sure, and it's a good
In
one.
life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what John Christ was doing. That the friend John Christ had like a bit about that, where he was saying that it's an excuse no matter what, like who you're talking to, right? Because you go, if it's people that like are wearing masks and they're very safe, you're just like, oh, you know what? I think I might have Corona, right?
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
and then you just tell them that. If you're people that like are really unsafe and they're like, oh, no mask or anything, you go, oh, I can't get Corona.
yeah, you like can't afford
No
it. I
matter who
can't
you're
afford to take
talking.
work off.
Yeah,
People
yeah.
immediately like,
Oh yeah,
cool.
my chick's really worried about all that stuff. Yeah,
Yeah, you always blame it on the girlfriend.
Oh yeah, but a lot of times it's true.
It
Yeah,
works. You're like, oh, I get you. It's all good.
yeah.
You're like,
No,
"She's
but a
Amber
lot of
Hearding me
people.
right now."
That was my experience in general. Was everyone I know from Toronto and here, including people our age and older people, was kind of like, yeah, my fucking girl's kind of worried about it, so I don't. But whatever.
Yeah,
Maybe some are
that's-
lying, but that's. I know, and I know some girls that don't really give a shit, but that was my general experience, was whether that's family, friends, or everything, was that girls were pretty worried about it, and guys that I know didn't care that
Well,
much.
it's the whole like that's why they don't pay. That's why they pay less for car insurance, because it's like they take less risks. It's just like a
They take
general,
less
like even the insurance agencies fucking know this. Like,
Yeah, it's like a truism.
yeah. There's one game that I like to play on the show. I stole it from Hot Ones, but I'm gonna pull up a photo that we did on a deep dive, and I'm just gonna explain this photo for the people watching on YouTube. What is going on here?
Just a bunch of cool rock and roll guys.
With the fedora, and I don't know what's happening on the right side here.
Yeah, well, we were one of those bands that a lot of bands, there's kind of the two types, right? There's the one band where everyone sort of dresses the same and you have like one unified image, right?
Yeah.
And ours was more like we had a bunch of wacky characters. One guy was sort of a hip hop guy. We had a punk guy. I kind of looked more like a rock and roll guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we
Was it-
were, and then, Brent, the guy with the fedora on, he kind of always dressed like a guy that would be in like an indie band sort of thing. So it was a very like mishmash
Was
of
this
images.
a promo? Was it for a music video?
Yeah, it's just a promo photo. Yeah.
Okay.
Like that was our MySpace banner or something like that.
Oh, okay. MySpace. Whoa, that's a throwback.
That looks like a banner to me. I think that was a banner somewhere.
The length or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another question that I like.
Or a poster. It might have been we had a lot of posters too.
Could have been posters.
That used to be a big thing. We sold a lot of posters.
Really?
That was a big thing that we'd sell. Yeah, but well, especially in on tour, you sell a lot of posters because then you sign them.
Yeah, I was gonna say back then it would have been like the autographs were bigger. Now it's almost like people want photos for like the clout or whatever, right?
Everyone wants the photos. Yeah.
It's for like when you die, they can just be like, hey, this is me and that person.
Yeah, people are like, oh, I was, I could get that.
Yeah.
That's a huge part of if I do the meets like this time. And yeah, it's everyone's like, everyone posts a photo of their food. So they're like, oh, I was at this comedian show or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Another question, because I know we got to wrap up soon here, but another question I like asking people is if you can make a phone call to 15-year-old Ryan, it doesn't affect your current timeline whatsoever. This is a different universe, all right?
Yeah,
Just
I got you.
Give him some advice. Give him some advice as to where he should go.
Oh, where I should go.
Or just advice in general, you know what I mean? Like if you could make that phone call, if this was a real thing, like what are you going to say?
I think there's different ages. If it was like a little older, okay. So structurally, the advice I would be like, I think it would help to remember that not everyone wants the same things as you, which would help me like get what I want more out of organizing people, whether that be in like band or running productions or everything. Like remembering that people aren't like you always. And then the biggest advice to 15-year-old me or anyone is to just, it doesn't matter what you do, to just be like, try to be the best at something. So like, if you look at everyone that's like really kind of winning as an adult, most of them became an expert at something. And even if that was like a top athlete, like, top athletes like perform very well in the real world. And people that became, really, really like great at music, even a lot of times, like musicians, like a lot of times perform very well in other scenarios. And, a lot of my friends from bands that were like the singer in a band that really was focused and, learned how to run a media business and learn how to run all the stuff, everything that takes to like be actually in like a band that's successful. All of those people are like, or at least a lot of those people went on to like start businesses or do something else. So I think like action, because most things that you take, the lessons are applicable anywhere, right? Like learning how to be great at anything is so like applicable whatever you do next, because you find out how you like operate and how for you to get better. So I think the biggest thing when people are like, should I do this? Should I do that? And a lot of times it's like, it really doesn't matter which one you do. It does matter that you do it right and become great at it. So I think that's like the biggest thing that I find that young people or even not so young people mess up, whether they're even think about how many people would be like, oh, should I do this video or I should do this podcast or whatever? And it's like, it actually really, really doesn't matter which one you do, but doing any of those things and like really trying hard and like putting in the effort will make you better at the next thing you do.
Yeah, it's the second guessing when they don't get the immediate success or response, right? That becomes the issue with anything.
Yeah, because they go, well, you start doing all the math and you go, okay, well, you know what? This probably won't work out, blah, blah, blah. And you go, oh, that doesn't matter. Like, again, it's like, most people who go to college and become like top tier athletes don't go on to make a career out of that. But all of those people perform better in everything else because of that they've learned how to be great.
Yeah, that's the experience that they've taken from that. No, I love that. That's terrific advice, man. I know we got like super
to motivate yourself, to work when it fucking gets, when you're feeling like lazy and all that shit, right? I don't know.
Because there's so many, like, I love watching the NCAA because you're like, 3 of these guys will make it to the NBA, and the rest of them
The other will
like
be in
an
the army and
accountant.
cops.
Yeah,
So yeah. This guy's gonna
So-
with this guy will work at a bar.
Yeah, but he'll be great at it. Because
Dude, it's kind of funny. It's kind of wild some of the times. Like, there's like this guy, my friend works at a tech company, and like one of the guys who kind of like almost works in the fucking call center, like not very high up, was in the NBA or sorry, the NFL. Wild.
That's fucking wild.
Yeah, and it was like, obviously, you're just like, what the fuck did you do with your money? I guess maybe they're just like, I need to get out of the house. You got some wife, and it's like, what am I gonna sit around? Or maybe they just blew through all their money or whatever. But
that's
it just like
always blows my mind with like Walmart greeters, even too. Like the old guys, you're like, oh, they just got bored of retirement. They're just like, I just need to be out of the house. Like that's it. Even Tom Brady retired, spent 5 minutes with his children. He's like, fuck this. I gotta go back. Like I can't do this.
Because it would. I mean, especially if you spent, your whole life, like even what I'm saying, where I'll go, I'll be like, fuck, why am I so like bummed out right now? And it's just because I'm like, well, I haven't done any that, like I've sort of trained myself to only derive happiness from like having a sketch that I like or having a new joke. Like it's like I've trained myself to get all my happiness from those little things. And then when I remove them all, it's like
you're like, oh, I'm just a sad man.
Yeah. So
like,
that is one of those things that fucking probably at some point in your life you like pay for. But I think that if it helps to accomplish things, but at some point it's probably you need to figure that out in a different way. More healthy lifestyle.
Yeah. You have to like take stock in like, oh, I like working out. That makes me happy. Or like,
Yeah, I have to figure out something. I run most
outside of it.
Yeah, finding something that like feels like you're moving forward in some way, right? Yeah. No, most of the other things I don't like anything else.
Yeah,
like I run every day, but I hate
running? It. You hate it?
I run every day and I hate it. The only other thing
why are you doing?
Dude, I don't like going. Well, because I think I have to be in like shape to do this stuff.
For what? You have to be jacked to do comedy?
Oh, we don't get jacked from running, but your brain has to work properly.
Oh, okay, see, there's intent to it then.
Yeah, your brain has to work properly,
and belly fat.
And you're not as tired. Well, to be honest, I mean, if you're gonna be in the public eye, I think the least you could do is fucking be in half decent shape too.
True. Make sure your teeth aren't all fucked up.
Yeah, but you need less sleep too. I think you need less sleep when you're in shape. So I think, I put it this way: it's like, why is every top CEO in decent shape? You know what I mean? It's like because there's everyone who talks about being good at things will probably, I think everyone, it helps with your brain, your motivation. I think a million things, right? But no, I don't really like doing anything else other than, because that's why it's hard even dating sometimes, because it's like, well, I don't want to go on vacations. I don't want this. It's like, well, what do you want to do? It's like, I don't know, like make videos and do comedy, I guess. Like I like hanging out with like fucking dudes at bars and shit. Like I
like hanging out with old dudes at bars and just
no, not old dudes, like my friends, they're comedians. I like remember the corner.
No,
like
I
used to
yeah.
But really, I did like fucking going to the corner comedy club and like afterwards hanging out. Like I did like that.
Yeah.
That's it. I wouldn't rather have been at like
on a beach in
vacation
Cabo or something with you.
No, I wouldn't. I like that.
Just bleeding money. That was the best part. Okay, I've been watching, because for work I've been covering this whole Johnny Depp Amber Heard thing, and one part that made me laugh so hard was she was like talking about how she was like, yeah, we were hanging out at his place, and like all he wanted to do was just like sit around with all these old rock and roll stars, and they were just like doing drugs and like playing guitar, and it was so boring also. And you see like they cut to Johnny, and he's looking down, he's like smirking, almost like he's reminiscing, like that was good fucking times.
Yeah. And by the way, I don't know if I blocked off till like 4, so if I'm fine to do an hour and a half, whatever you want. But no, I did I was watching a bit of that trial. And I was talking about that a little on this week's that we just recorded on my podcast. But the thing that made me laugh so much was the extent to which I only watched like an hour. But trials are so weird because he really is like acting. I watched this part. He's telling this story about his family and why they were bad at being parents or whatever. And he was kind of like, I learned this thing from my dad,
I
how to
hate him
not
now.
be a parent. And that's why I said, I'll never, put my kids through that. And it was like, how is this even relevant? And I guess they're just trying to get the juries to like him or whatever.
Yeah,
But
it just doesn't make any fucking sense.
it's
There's so many
bizarre.
times
He's just
though,
doing these monologues and
lawyers will
these
do that.
pauses.
Lawyers are like, especially defense lawyers, they are big proponents of like drawing out a case and making you like tired. Like there was this one guy I watched on like some Netflix show where he was like a defense lawyer for somebody, and the guy talked straight without any interruptions for like 45 minutes, which is a long fucking
Really?
time when you're just sitting in a courtroom. You see the jury, like their head is like nodding, and he's trying to wear them down. Like that was the whole thing.
Yeah.
But with Johnny, it was weird. He was like going off on these like odd tangents. Like I'm like, is he gonna tell us like what his favorite TV shows are this week? Like I
That's
don't
what
know
it
where
felt
this
like.
is going. Like, and then they keep cutting
Yeah,
to Amber
and-
Heard. She can't take a break. She's looking like all stone faced, like and sad at the camera. And then if she smirks, people are like, oh, she fucking smiled, or like it's weird.
Who do you think? How is it going? Because to me, I've heard that it
I
seems
think-
like he might get guilty, but it is
I don't
airing
think
out a
so.
lot of the Amber Heard stuff. You think he'll be innocent?
I think he'll be innocent, and I think she's gonna face like a lot of repercussions. I don't know.
Monetarily, like isn't it a money suit, right?
Yeah, well, $50 million, right, is the defamation, and then she's countersuing for $100 million.
Yeah.
So I don't, she's trying to get back her 50 and then another 50 or something. But like, there's so much sketchy stuff with that. Like in their initial divorce settlement, it was for
She shit in the bed,
She shit in the bed, yeah. And
or
then
her
he's like-
friend.
He's like that Amber turd, like like fucking.
Yeah.
I don't know. Because they even interviewed like his housekeeper, and she was like, "There's no way that the dog could have like shit that out. Like that was human. It was like, you know." I
They
just
should have
picture
done
her
like
like
a sample
squatting
where they
over
put
the bed.
turds there, and they're like, "Hey,
Can you point to the one that was victimized
they-
you? And he's like,
oh,
"It's
shit.
number 3."
Yeah, I had done a sample where they make them
Point out the one
They
that
make-
harmed him.
well, they make Amber do a fucking shit, and then like
Yeah. She has to shit in front of the court, and they just. Now this is
the
the
shit
dog
doesn't
shit.
fit, must have quit.
Oh shit! There was also like speaking of like dramatic trials, that what's his name, Jesse Smollett, that whole like outburst that he had during his
Yeah.
trial. I was like, Jesus Christ, I am
Saying
not
that if I,
going to kill myself. Like, I was like,
Yeah.
bro, what? Like
You have to respect his level of just straight up like
committing to the bit,
going
like,
down with the lie.
Oh fuck yeah!
Like he's giving a master clinic on how to never go down with the lie. And 20 years from now, people are going to be like, you're that guy that, and you're like, I guess he never really admitted it. What did happen? It's going to get a little murky.
That's
And
exactly
in his
it.
private life, he can keep that going. That like, no, I
It's
never
like
got
OJ. He's like, maybe I did kill him, and it's so far removed that you're like, did he? I don't know, fucking know.
I know.
But the judge
Yeah,
said
I
he
did-
didn't, so it's like, what?
And he wrote that book, If I Did
Yeah,
Kill
if
My
I
Wife
did
or
it.
whatever.
I couldn't believe that shit. Oh my god. How many? I was gonna say you should probably hire someone for just the amount of influx of weird emails that you get requesting stuff for the Boys Cast. Because like I know I send you a decent amount of things, and you're like, yeah, I already saw that 2 days ago, and it says.
I'm a pretty online guy, like just in general, because I feel like I have to be. So I feel like I'm sort of like tapped in. Even like the chick I'm dating, like she rarely tells me stuff that you know what I mean? It's
The same
like
thing
I'm
for me.
always,
Because I'm covering
Yeah.
like celebrity news garbage, and my girlfriend will be like, "Did you see that?" I'm like, "Yeah, I saw that like 6 hours ago."
Right.
So, okay, well, fine.
so I go through, I don't go through the emails very often, or like I don't always go through the emails or Instagram or Twitter, but unless it's just someone that's like in my inbox, not the like unreads. But I go through the people send me on Patreon, and I get like maybe 20 things a month, and I go through that, and then I screenshot everything. And then I do have someone that one of their jobs is every Monday to send me a list of everything they saw that week.
Oh, that's genius. That's again like another
Yeah.
system that helps.
Well,
set
it's like
everything
just,
up.
I guess
It's so
every
easy.
show would have like a research department. This is my little
Yeah,
tiny
a
version of it, but it's
rundown.
like, Yeah, I basically like, here's like 30 websites, go through that, go through Google News for the 7 days, like, and you know, he has a pretty good idea of like how I operate and what I would want to talk about.
Mm,
He sends me about 40 things, and I go through that, go through my own thing, and then I kind of like find the stuff that I want to talk about or whatever.
assess from there. Yeah, because I can imagine like after a while, people are like sending
Sometimes I
specific
get good ones.
things.
Yeah,
Like,
most people send stuff that I've seen, but a lot of times, because I don't know, it's like I talk about for this living, I'm fucking tapped in, you know, whatever. I'm literally making a fucking, my whole job is I make like videos on topical things, right? So I'm
yeah.
obviously like a big part of that is trying to be tapped in. But sometimes people will send me Reddit threads or something like, yo, check out this Reddit community. And those I generally like. Like
There was
I
one
always
time, it's
check those out.
Cringetopia.
What's
You have
that
to,
one?
there's a subreddit called Cringetopia, and it's where I first found, because I put it right out for Inform Overload. There was this video of, it's the video of Will Smith being degraded by Jada, that one
Ooh,
that like popped up. So I first saw it on this subreddit called Cringetopia, and it was
right.
like, I was like literally seeing it nowhere else on the internet. Everyone was still talking about like
Reddit can be up. Yeah, yeah.
celebrity
Twitter,
reactions.
Twitter is probably the pulse the most.
Twitter for sure. Like if you see stuff starting to trend on Twitter, the cool thing about Twitter is how like how easy of a system it is to just search for stuff. Like you don't even need hashtags. If I search a
No.
word, every tweet with
Yeah.
that word in it comes up, starting with the top
Yeah, yeah.
or the newest or whatever. What do you
Yeah.
think about
But I
Elon
actually was, well,
buying Twitter?
I was actually even talking about more like the subreddits where it'd be like a furry subreddit or
Oh
like a
yeah, okay.
subreddit of, you know what I mean? Like a subreddit of people
Yeah,
that
yeah,
found
yeah.
each other where they like, it's like they ask each other questions about the fact that they, you know, they're bald, but they believe they have hair. Like just these weird little like communities that like exist.
And it's
Like
all like
that
in
stuff.
earnest, like it's
100%. Yeah. And so I talk
uh,
about those like things and people send me that shit
that's
where,
great.
you know, some community of people who think they're unicorns or whatever, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I always like
Or
that I'm
the
not tapped in on. I wouldn't have heard about it if I
minor
didn't get sent
attracted
it.
persons, that's the new thing.
Yeah.
I was like, pedophile. You mean pedophile?
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? That's like the whole Ezra. Have you been hearing what's happened with Ezra Miller, the guy that plays the Flash? Like, he's literally going to be starring in his own DC Universe film. So they are branding him as like, this is our first like non-binary like superhero, and we're so happy to have him like be in his own film. He's been in Hawaii since March 7th, and he's been arrested like 3 times already. And I say he and not
For
they,
what?
them. Just like violent outbursts. The first, it's insane, dude. It's insane. But he insists that you use his gender pronouns of they, them. And I'm like, if you were attacking women, I don't give a fuck what your gender pronouns are. Like he
Also
literally,
super.
the first
I feel
instance, I'll
superhero is
tell
the
you,
best one you could do a non-binary for, because you just, you know, it's like superheroes could easily be like not sexual anything, you know what I mean? Like you
they're
could
aliens. They're literally
yeah,
aliens.
you could
Anything.
almost make them kind of, you know, almost semi it's ambiguous, like androgynous without, but it's like obviously there's a big difference between that as like an artistic choice and that as a like you know, cultural statement that we're gonna, you know, drum up controversy with.
I found out, before I tell you about the Ezra stuff, I found out that like because I was wondering, I was like, I get that they're trying to like push for more representation in the media, so that's why you're seeing like all of these, like Marvel put out their like woke superheroes where they're just like all these different things. But there was like, they're changing, you know, the right winger will be like, they're changing Superman, they're making him gay now. And you're like, why would they do that, you know? But what it is actually is like, they only have the rights to a certain period of time, and then someone else buys the rights to the character, and then they can just make the character whatever they want. And that's what it is. It's not like the original people are like, we've just decided in 2022.
I actually didn't know that. I was thinking about, there's a lot of copyright law where they keep changing the characters in order to extend the copyright.
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe I'm getting it mistaken. I took it as like somebody taking over and then changing it.
I don't think that would be the copyright expiring. and this is like somewhat of a conspiracy, but also it's so in some cases it's true. Like it is true that, that a lot of these places know that if they, say our superheroes non-binary, you have a built-in base of people that will write articles getting mad and a built-in base of people that will write articles that they're happy about it. And if they want to operate that as their business model of like, whatever, right? We want to choose a side of culture war to try to like, promote our film, right? But the other one, I can't remember the exact one, but there's a lot of these things where, for example, like Mickey Mouse or whatever, where there'll be a big lobby where their copyright's essentially running out on this character, and they like essentially keep lobbying to change the copyright laws, right? And the one of them that's the most famous, I think, version of this, and it's like, Superman or Batman or one of these big ones, but essentially someone's family of the guy who owns the copyright keeps trying to get it back. So they just keep doing all these wild maneuvers in order to not give the ownership back to this person's family who is the original. So there's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of. You are right that there's a lot of.
Picture that guy getting so upset, like, oh, now he's gay. Like, what are they doing now? He just wants it back. He's just getting so upset.
Yeah, there's some people that talk about this a lot. Fuck, who knows a lot about this stuff is Kurt Metzger, but I don't know enough to like say any of this explicitly, but I know there is a lot of funny business going on that is actually copyright related, like you said.
That's
but
ridiculous.
I think it's to not give the copyright, not because the copyright expired.
Yeah, they're doing.
Because I can't think of a scenario.
That makes more sense, actually. Yeah.
I don't think right now there's very many superheroes that aren't like owned by these places where like I could just go make my own superhero movie.
Yeah. But with the Ezra thing, so the first, he was charged with disorderly conduct and harassment. He was at a bar in Hilo, and there was a woman singing karaoke, and he went up to her and ripped the microphone out of her hand.
So he parties.
And then there was a guy playing darts. He attacked that guy, and then he got kicked out of the bar. Then he was at somewhere else, and he whipped a metal chair at a woman and hit her in the head. I was like, this person is insane.
So what happened? Did he get in trouble? Does he still have his superhero gig, or is he?
It's Hawaii, so he still has a superhero gig, which is insane. Like, people are comparing it to the Johnny Depp situation. They're like, you guys fired him with like no evidence. Like, there was literally an article that came out that didn't even name him. And then he got fired from Pirates of the Caribbean. He got fired from that J.K. Rowling series, Fantastic Beasts or whatever it's called.
All from being like too wild.
All because he was accused. Johnny Depp was accused of maybe hitting Amber Heard. So
sorry. I thought you were still talking about the other guy.
No, I'm saying like they're comparing it. They're comparing it to his situation because they're the same company, right? I think it's like Warner Brothers or something that owns it.
So they're saying, well, why did Johnny Depp have an accusation and you dropped him from everything, and this guy's running around town beating up people?
He's fucking being a menace. He's literally being a villain, like a super villain in real life. Who plays a hero.
Nothing's changing, because he's non-binary.
Yeah. Well, I'm not saying that's what it is, but maybe that's what it is. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that like Johnny Depp's thing was in like the heat of fucking Me Too era, right? Where it was, the smallest like accusation, up. You're done. Dude, they released the thing of how many people gotten fired from Hollywood. It was like, not kidding, like 800 or something. Like like a high amount of like executives and actors. And
every story is horrific. You know what I mean? Like Matt Lauer with like the button underneath his desk to lock the door on women and shit. Like,
right. But again, those are, well, like, I feel like a lot of these have become, that I've talked about or whatever, but the other side of that story is that he doesn't have a button to lock girls in. People have a button so people don't bother them while they're working.
Yeah. He just happened to use it a few different times.
Right. Yeah. But there is a big difference between like, hey, I'm like installing a button so I can lock girls in. Or apparently it's pretty normal. Apparently it's fairly normal to be like, if you're like someone that does work that can't be like bothered or whatever, like you need like you can't just have people walking in or whatever. So
Yeah,
you'd have
but
like
imagine the
you have to.
engineers are
It's
coming
essentially
in.
like you're buzzing. You buzz people in like the way you'd buzz
Yeah.
people into your house.
Engineers redesigning his office. He's like, all right, we got the buzzer under the desk to lock the door so nobody comes in,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
a trap door in the floor. You want the
A
floor to
Murphy
open up?
bed that doubles as a bookshelf that will
Yeah.
also be triggered by a second button.
Like
Yeah.
just like what?
Yeah. We have a Men in Black zapper for afterwards.
Just putting all this shit in. I'm gonna
Yeah,
wrap it
that's so
up
funny.
here, dude.
Yeah.
But
Cool,
let
dude.
me share your shit here so people can. I mean, if anything, you're doing me a favor. It's not my few,
No,
my
it's all
50
good.
people, my 50 fans that watch every episode. But go follow Ryan
What's up,
Long
50
Comedy.
fans?
Follow Ryan Long Comedy on Instagram.
Yeah,
if you're not already.
youtube.com/Ryan Long Comedy. The Boys Cast with Ryan Long's the podcast.
Boom, there it all is. Any final words for the people watching?
Nah, dude. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. Good talking to you again. Hopefully
Yeah,
I'll
man, it was great.
come out to Ottawa soon.
Yeah, definitely hit me up if you're ever in town. If you're listening on Spotify, iTunes, thank you. Don't forget to leave a 5-star review and share the episode with your friends. That always helps. But for now, this has been Ryan Long. I've been your host, Johnny Rogers, and until next time, keep it classy, everybody.
All right. Peace, guys.
You've been listening to The Johnny Rogers Show. New episodes air every Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.